Wow, this video was written, recorded, edited, and fully rendered ready to go before the news came in that Akira Toriyama has sadly passed away at age 68. And I don't have anything I can say about it except that rest in peace, Toriyama. Your effect on media worldwide is monumental. And I think only future historians will be able to tell the full scope of it. A while ago, I put a poll on my YouTube channel asking what you would like me to primarily focus my attention on, because all the projects I have right now are long form projects, and you chose The Boys, which I was perfectly happy with. I have a lot of things to say about the, shall we be charitable and say, questionable opinions people have about Garth Ennis's work. But when I started actually delving further into those opinions, I found a pipeline, starting with the show is better than the comic style YouTube videos. Oh my god, these videos are bad, guys. They are so bad. And I don't say this lightly. I do not like accusing people of things, especially people I have never met, but I am genuinely convinced that people making these videos didn't actually read the comic. And this isn't the kind of thing where, oh, they had a different opinion than me, or even that they had a bad take. No. This is like watching a YouTuber reviewing a comic book and them saying, I really just didn't like that purple costume the character was wearing. Didn't really think it suited the character. I thought it looked kind of stupid. I just didn't like it. And then you open the comic and the character is wearing a red costume. That is what I'm dealing with, guys. So I had to take a step back, because basically every other opinion is just parroting these YouTube videos, like not even very creatively reinterpreting the arguments or saying anything different. No, literally, sometimes word for word, parroting what these YouTube videos are saying. So people who have never read the comic are copying people who potentially haven't read the comic, and this has become the prevailing narrative about a flawed but brilliant work of comic book fiction from, I believe, one of the most talented comic book writers working today. And it really makes me frustrated. That's why I had to stop, because my brain was going faster than my fingers could type. I was getting frustrated, and also it was getting boring, because literally when I was debunking this, I would pause and then I would say my point, and then literally seconds later I would have to pause again, because Garth Ennis is not a subtle writer, and he is that by design. If he has something to say, he will say it directly in the narrative of the comic or from the mouth of the character it is concerning, okay? He will not beat around the bush. He will tell you with words in English exactly what his point is. So when I eventually get round to finishing this thing, you'll see what I mean. You'll see what I mean. It is literally someone saying that a costume in the comic is purple when it's actually red. It's that bad. And it was getting boring. That's why I had to stop, right? It was getting boring. All I would do was listen to a couple words, pause it, put a comic book panel on screen of the comic saying the exact opposite, not interpretation, directly the opposite of what this YouTuber was claiming it said. And then literally seconds later, I would have to stop and do exactly the same thing. So yeah, I had to take a step back. I had to. So as a palate cleanser, I decided to focus my attention on a topic that isn't controversial in the slightest and will definitely not incur any negative feelings or reactions. The funny thing about this is, in a similar vein to what I was saying about The Boys, the people who are critiquing, again, let's be charitable and say Goku's questionable parenting, are being kind of disingenuous, taking things out of context, making things seem worse than they actually are, and sometimes saying things that are outright false. Like, for example, the claim that he is an absent parent. I'm like, guys, he was literally dead. Yet he did eventually choose to stay dead, but he had reasoning for doing it, and the reason was to protect his family and friends. Like, he said, yeah, a lot of these terrible threats are coming to our home because of me. So the best thing I can do for you right now is to stay away. I mean, again, you could maybe critique that as a decision, but you can't say it was a thoughtless and negligent decision. So yeah, I won't be focusing on the common complaints about Goku's parenting because they have been thoroughly debunked by many, many people who are quick to jump to their anime husbando's defense. But the reason I wanted to make this video is because I have a lot of points I want to make that I don't hear a lot of people talking about, both in Goku's defense and against. And again, like I said, most people have debunked a lot of the common complaints about Goku's parenting. There's nothing really to add to that. But first, I would like to introduce you to one of these defenses. Not one of the good ones, but one of the ones that lived in my head for all the wrong reasons.
Enough, no more. We're putting an end to this now, because I just don't get it. I've never understood it. I still don't get it. I've had my online homies, as well as IRL homies, say this often, and talk about Goku being a bad father. I hope for in this video, I can present why that narrative needs to die, and is not the case. I've noticed the way people talk about Goku being a father is the same way Skip Bayless talks about LeBron James. Some elements of it are indeed true, but yet they leave out so much of the context surrounding it, and it's constantly just the same things being repeated over and over again, that there's a lot of people out there that buy these narratives without actually thinking twice about what's actually happening surrounding.
So that is one of the good salient points he actually makes. Like I said, a lot of people are being like quite disingenuous about specifically why they think Goku is a bad parent and not really taking into consideration all the things contextually and genuinely being quite unfair to him.
Surrounding whatever's being said. Don't remember how Dragon Ball Z started? If you don't, let me paint the picture for you. Goku shows up on the island where all of his pals are, and he presents them to his son Gohan. And his older brother Raditz pops up on the island, takes Gohan, flies away, revealing his intentions and what he wants and the reason why Goku was actually sent there. So Goku has to team up with his arch nemesis at that point, Piccolo, to kill his older brother in order to save his son and then save the rest of the planet Earth. But the primary reason why he's really going there with urgency is because he took his son. So the series starts off with Goku going to save his son from his older brother. Oh, and then y'all remember how the fight ends? There's a couple of special beam cannons in between. Oh yeah, that's right. He dies trying to save his son. The man died.
Yeah, get used to this, because it is pretty much the only defense he has of Goku.
And it wouldn't be the first time he does it, alright? So then we get the whole thing with Piccolo actually being Gohan's father. All because he trained the little... He didn't even really train him at first. The bro threw the little kid out into the wild, which I'm willing to justify considering that Gohan isn't really a normal little kid. Like, he did almost one-shot Raditz when he headbutted him in the chest like that. So Piccolo made a good investment, in my opinion, knowing that the Saiyans were coming. But equally, you gotta apply the same thing to Goku. The reason Goku ain't come back instantly was because he knew that he could train somewhere to get strong enough. That way he didn't just come back to Earth and he wasn't strong enough to fend off the Saiyans, alright? So, anything about Goku being a deadbeat, which I've heard a million times, Papa Goku was not a deadbeat. He was just dead. So then Goku hauls his ass back when his training is finished and the Saiyans are arrived and Saiyans are killing everybody. And then he shows up in time to protect his son and save his life again. Again. Right? And then we enter the whole Namek Saga thing, right? So Namek Saga, did Goku force Gohan to go to Namek because he needed to recover? No. Gohan did that on his own free will. In fact, he told his mom...
I don't really think anybody's claiming that Goku forced him. That's not a critique of Goku or his parenting that I've ever heard. I mean, maybe this guy has heard it, but no, I've never really heard people saying, "Oh, Goku's such a terrible father. He forced Gohan to go to Namek and fight Frieza." No, that's not something I've ever heard before.
I'm going to Namek in order to bring our friends back to life. So then that happens. Things start going on in Namek. By the way, great arc. Great, amazing art. And then when the whole shenanigans with Frieza starts going on, guess who shows up again to save his son's life? Oh yeah, that's right, Goku! He was the one. Like, I don't get it. And then guess what?
No. No, you clearly, very, very clearly don't get it.
He fights Frieza for the longest 5 minutes that's ever been recorded ever. I know that's like the ongoing joke, but when you go back and watch the anime, it is a valid one. And guess what? I thought he died again, but he didn't. Turns out he was alive, and so when he didn't want to come back immediately, this is something that people frequently point to. Like, oh, Goku's such a horrible father. How dare he not come back immediately when his... Bro. I dare I die for my son. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just chill in space for a little bit. I've kind of been busting my ass and working. I think I deserve a little bit of a vacate. And I get told I'm like a horrid father. What the worst father? So then...
Yeah, it gets worse than this, by the way, but yeah. Yeah, you basically said, yeah, you know, I almost died. My family like thought that I had died, but you know what? This whole saving my son, you know, the thing that is literally my job, you know, I need a vacay from this. You know, I need a vacay from being a parent. You know, I really just this whole parenting thing, you know, I busted my ass. So you know, I think I deserve a vacay. Just forget that I almost died and my family's probably like really, really traumatized and grieving. And also my child who was like in the middle of this terrible, terrible battle and almost died himself multiple times, probably incredibly traumatized by that. You know what? I deserve a vacay because I busted my ass. No, again, you clearly don't get it. Being a parent is not something that you can literally just have a vacay from. Yes, parents do take a break. I'm not saying that being a parent should be your literal be-all and end-all of your personality. That's one of the reasons like a lot of people actually don't want to have children, especially these days, because it is a complete commitment. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have your breaks, but you shouldn't take them right after you almost died and your child almost died and your family is probably very, very doing not well. You know, that's not really something that you get to do as a father. You don't just get to say, you know, I'm busting my ass, I'm not coming home. Yeah, imagine that in any other circumstance. Like, you know, someone comes in, you not even call. I mean, Goku didn't even call. But imagine a father calling you and say, you know what? I'm busting my ass. You know, yeah, I'm not coming home. Just wait for wait for me. I'm coming home whenever, when I'm ready. Yeah. Yeah, once again, you clearly don't get it.
And this is the funny part. Piccolo trains Gohan for that portion during the Saiyan saga, and people point to Piccolo as, oh, what a great and tremendous father, even though Piccolo was kind of a piece of crap for the beginning of that. Like, he was harsh on the kid. And I mean harsh, but no one ever seems to bring that up. So then the whole Cell Saga thing ends up happening.
Yeah, there is a very good reason people don't bring that up. And it's really just to do with characters and character progression and how we, just as humans, view characters and people. But I'll save that for when I get into my more constructed points regarding this.
And Papa Goku takes Gohan into the hyperbolic time chamber to train, which, in my opinion, he seemed a lot more supportive than Piccolo did when he was training Gohan. Two very different personalities. But I could understand people pointing at Goku and being like, oh yeah, he's not really the best dad if he was out there like Vegeta and Piccolo with the way that he talked to people. But he wasn't. He seemed rather supportive. In fact, Goku had the belief that Gohan could do better than him. Better than him, which then leads into the major thing that I want to get into. Goku tossing Cell to Senzu-bean. Alright, look, listen. I know not the smartest idea, but I think we all need to understand that Goku truly believed that Gohan could realistically take him down. Which, guess what? He bet right! He was right! Gohan did go Super Saiyan 2. And if anything, that's another long-term investment, because think about it.
No, you did not mishear that. He literally said, yeah, I know Goku literally bet his own child's life, but he was right. So it's all okay. Let's all make bets against our child's lives, or happiness, or wants, or needs, or whatever, as long as we're sure.
Think about it. Every major confrontation they've had up to that point, it's been Goku, Vegeta for a little bit, and Goku. Like, let's call it what it is. Sure, the other guys do stuff here and there, but let's be honest. Goku's like, listen, if my son could be stronger than me, we gonna be set. Ain't no one gonna have to mess with us. So he invested in his son. And then guess what? When it backfires, what does Goku do instantly to make up for the whole Senzu Bean thing you all point out? Oh yeah, that's right. He died again! Y'all understand that up to this point?
Oh yeah, great point. He literally fixed the shitstorm he created. Yeah, he bet on his son's life. He was right, so that's fine. And when a little bit of it backfired, he took responsibility. Again, yes, taking responsibility and sacrificing yourself when you make a mistake, that is the right thing to do. But again, it is your freaking responsibility. You're the one who made a mistake, okay? You should not be lauded for that. You should be saying, oh yeah, he freaking died again. Yeah, because it was his fucking fault. He's the one who created this shit. That is not a point in his favor. Also, you can say Goku was right all day long. Being right does not equate to being good, and even if it did, that is irrelevant because Goku's plan would have failed if it were not for the intervention of Android 16. Because Goku took everything else into consideration. He took into consideration strategy, battle tactics. He took into consideration Cell and how he would react. He took into consideration Vegeta. He took into consideration who would be the protector of the world after he died. But you know the one thing he didn't take into consideration? Gohan. You want to know why he's not fighting back? Because he's scared, Goku. This plan would have failed because Goku doesn't know his child. And that is the nail in the coffin for me. He doesn't know his child, and he didn't really make any attempt to know him. He didn't take into consideration that power or no power, Gohan isn't a natural fighter. And you know something else he didn't take into consideration?
He's 11 years old!
But people say Goku throwing Cell the Senzu Bean was the dumbest thing he did in that arc. I completely disagree. The dumbest thing he did was not taking into consideration the fact that he was dealing with a child, okay? That is a child. It is not going to behave the way adults behave, okay? You know how it's going to react? It's going to react like a freaking child. And I see people, like, when Gohan loses his temper and starts getting really angry and even sadistic at this point, I see people blaming Gohan, and don't you dare. How very dare you, don't you blame the child. This is his father's fault because, like I said, you cannot expect children to react as anything other than children who, when dealing with not even in a world-destroying sense or anything like that, just in any run-of-the-mill thing, when you are dealing with children, who doesn't take into consideration the mentality of children? People say, oh, Goku couldn't have foreseen this. Goku couldn't have foreseen Gohan losing his temper. Oh, don't you give me that. Any reasonable, mature adult could have foreseen an 11-year-old losing his temper or becoming scared or doing any manner of things that freaking children do. Which one of you genuinely believes that, oh, Goku planned for everything, but it's not his fault that Gohan reacted the way he did? He couldn't have foreseen that. Of course he could have foreseen that. And any reasonable mature adult could have foreseen a child reacting like that, whether or not it's a superpowered child. And even if it wasn't a surefire thing that he would react like that, it's certainly a very, very, very clear possibility that should have been taken into consideration, especially since Goku took everything else into consideration besides his own freaking son. This plan, brilliant as you want to paint it, would have failed because Goku wasn't thinking about his son. You know who was thinking about his son? Piccolo.
Goku! 貴様は間違っている! Goku, you're making a mistake. It doesn't matter how strong he isn't the fighter you are. Enough of this game, Goku. You're wrong about your son. Gohan may have that power, but it doesn't matter. He's not a fighter like you.
今ご飯が何を思っているかわかるか。怒りなんかじゃない。なぜお父さんは僕がこんなに苦しんでいるのに助けてくれないんだろう。僕の命よりフェアな男らしい勝負の方が大切なんだろうかと。
Do you have any clue what's going on in his head right now? He's not angry or playing for time. That boy is in greater agony than he has ever known in his entire life. And he's probably wondering why his father refuses to step in and save him. Do you want to know what he's thinking? He's not thinking about strength or about competition. He's wondering why his father is standing there, letting him die.
忘れるな。たとえ実力はナンバーワンになったとしても、あいつはまだまだ子供だ。
Regardless of how strong he may or may not be, he's still a child you've left alone. And so your son may be the most powerful person in the world, but he's also a scared 11-year-old boy.
やられてもいい。俺は行くぞ。
So, screw this. I'm not just standing here. I'd rather die than wait.
I mean, all of this is basically retell and summarize the storyline of Dragon Ball Z. There's been no analysis. There's been no bending of the circumstances. No,
Yeah, there has been no analysis. There's been no critique. There's been no actually looking into Goku as a parent. You just keep saying he died for the kid, he died for the kid, he died for the kid, and you think that is what amounts to fatherhood? Yeah, I'm gonna stop there because that's pretty much the only point he makes in Goku's favor. And he has a pinned comment on this video that says, there's no way y'all are going to say him dying twice for his son. You see him yelling it again as if it's this brilliant point is the bare minimum get out of here laughing crying emoji. Yes. Yes. Hopefully childless young man. Yes. Keeping your offspring alive at all costs is the bare freaking minimum you are supposed to do as a parent. Freaking animals know this. Well, most of them do. So if we look at parenting as say a hierarchy of needs, right? Not in a hierarchy of importance, but a hierarchy of immediacy. I would say protect children from external threats at all costs, provide for child's physical needs, provide for child's emotional needs, and provide for child's future needs in the sense of educating them to eventually be an adult and make their own way into the world, okay? So yeah, that's what I would say is parenting criteria. And like I said, there aren't really any ways to say which one is more important. That is entirely situational, but there are ones that are more immediate. So yes, I say again, protecting your offspring from physical harm and death at all costs is the literal bare freaking minimum you are supposed to do. It is the most immediate criteria you are supposed to fulfill as a parent. Because guess what? You brought that child into this world. This is your responsibility to fulfill all these needs. And again, I am not saying this isn't a point in Goku's favor. It is. It is just not nearly as big a point as he seems to think it is, to the point where it's all he says in the video. So again, I am not saying that a parent dying for their child is not a noble and laudable thing to do. It is. But again, it is your freaking job. If your child is in danger and you have the opportunity to sacrifice your life for theirs, you're damn right you should do it. And this isn't like the bystander effect that can range from the good man who does nothing to a completely morally neutral option. No. If Your child is in danger and you have the opportunity to sacrifice your life for them and you choose not to, you are evil, okay? You made that commitment by bringing that life into this world. You had better be prepared to die for it. And until you learn that, please God, do not procreate. Okay, now we get into the more concrete points I want to make about Goku as a father. I think it's fair to say that Goku's fan base are particularly invested in their boy, and this has not only led to some debunking Goku versus Superman videos with an amusingly defensive tone to them, but has, at least in part, led to, in my opinion, the detriment of the story. Toriyama was clearly setting up for Gohan to take over from Goku, he even admits this in an interview, but Goku's power to attract straight men is so strong that Toriyama blitzed his own character arcs and brought him back. You guys, I am genuinely just joking here. Take this as a joke. A loving joke. And when my boy's video comes out in 2027, you can call me a ravenous Garth Ennis fangirl all you want and laugh at me saying that Ennis can beat Kripke, guys. I have done the research! Now, one of the things that Goku's critics aren't taking into consideration is that Goku is a Saiyan by nature. Goku is a very interesting nature-nurture study in that he has been raised on Earth and there are parts of him that are more human than most humans. He has a very heightened sense of mercy to the point of folly sometimes, but even though nurture is in general more important when it comes to determining what kind of person someone will be, there's only so much that can be done to outrun nature. Saiyans are a race that thrive off of combat and a thirst for battle. Of course, a lot of this is cultural, but if you take a look at their biology and the fact that when you beat them down, it actually makes them stronger, like even to the point of death, it makes them exponentially stronger. So yeah, it's clear that they are built for this. Of course, looking at Vegeta, there's obviously a decent amount of nurture involved in how overwhelming this desire is. So to a race where everyone is like this kind of throw your kid to the hungriest wolf in the woods and see what happens kind of parenting is in its own way loving, as it's the only way you're going to get them to survive and thrive in that kind of society. I am of the belief that to at least a small extent, what is and is not abusive can be circumstantial. Like, for example, there's this movie Bird Box, which is basically a thriller movie where if you open your eyes and see what's going on around you, you die. There are monsters in the world that if you see them, you die, basically. That's all you need to know. So this woman and her kids have to make their way across a river, blindfolded, basically. And before they set off, she says this to them.
Under no circumstance are you allowed to take off your blindfold. If I find that you have, I will hurt you. Do you understand?
Now that is harsh, but yeah, you have to impress upon these kids just how dangerous and how serious this situation actually is. If she didn't do that, there is a higher chance these kids would die. Goku's instinct is to make Gohan stronger, yes, for the Earth's sake, but for his own as well. So to a human's eyes, this is horrifying. But to the eyes of any Saiyan watching, Goku's Father of the Year. The only problem is that Gohan, while having the physicality of a Saiyan, is, from what I can see, mentally human. He needs love, he needs tenderness, he needs to be someone's priority in addition to being pushed physically and mentally to be the most he can be. This kind of survivalist parenting is shown to be counterproductive to raising a strong child, at least a strong human child. Also, from my knowledge of Japanese culture, I think that a lot of people who are critiquing this aren't taking into consideration the culture it was written for. There were some serious changes made to the original dub because there were worries that Goku would come across as selfish and heartless to a Western audience, who in general tend to be more open and tactile than the intended Japanese audience. Now, does that mean Japanese people are okay with children being treated like this? Absolutely not. The pushback Goku receives in the Cell arc is more than evidence of that. But for a lot of properties, especially those with a comedic edge, not to mention animated, things are exaggerated. For example, Chi-Chi's almost pathological obsession with Gohan's education, if taken absolutely literally, could be seen as abusive. But Japanese parents, Asian parents generally, are really focused on academic achievements in a very different and more prominent way than Western parents are, mostly due to societal structure. Like, for example, when I was working in Japan, I would work from 12 to 9, and I would be standing in the lobby, and I would see children walking outside at 8 o'clock at night in their school uniforms. And I was thinking, do these kids ever leave school? And a lot of that is to do with the fact that the education system is a very test-based system. You have to study to take the tests. And if you don't, then if you miss the pipeline, the high school to uni to work pipeline, if you fall off of that, it is hard to get back on in other countries, but in Japan, it is so much harder. So parents, much like the example I gave before on what is and is not wrong, can be circumstantial. Parents are doing this because if they don't, their child will not have a good future. So Chi-Chi's full-on attitude here is meant to be a heightened comedic representation of that.
Are you trying to tell me that Gohan's studies are more important than saving the Earth?
That's right, mister! There's nothing more important than Gohan's studies right now!
So even though most Japanese parents do not push their children to this intense degree, it can come off as a bit jarring to Western audiences because they simply don't get the joke. A similar line of thinking can be applied to Goku. This story clearly frames it as wrong, but it comes across as less egregious to the audience it was intended for. I want to quickly address the idea that Vegeta is a better father than Goku, and
Tell me, why did you do that to Trunks? You're his dad! Dads are supposed to do bad things to their sons! Why did you hit him? Why did you hurt him like that? Why? Why?
no. Though I think the reason a lot of people are under this impression is that Vegeta experiences a lot of growth and development as a father, and Goku doesn't. The same thing can be applied to Piccolo. In the beginning, yes, he was incredibly harsh on Gohan, so much harsher than Goku has ever been, but Piccolo develops in his relationship with Gohan. Gohan becomes, I'd say, and correct me if you disagree, but I'd say like the most important person to Piccolo. Like, he loves that kid. So we as viewers have short memories, okay? And we like characters who develop and improve and get better, okay? So Vegeta and Piccolo have developed. That is why I think audiences kind of tend to be a lot more forgiving of them than they are of Goku, who in comparison hasn't really grown all that much. At least as a parent. As a character, he has, and then regressed, and then yeah, I'm mostly working off Dragon Ball and Z. I haven't really seen a lot of the other stuff. I'm mostly working off of Dragon Ball and Z. So back to Vegeta. He starts off having no interest, then moves on to the primal desire of wanting his offspring to survive. Once again, yes, that is the bare minimum. If you needed evidence of that, Vegeta's it. To the basic emotion of feeling pain when he dies. But he doesn't really get any real development until the Buu arc, where he sacrifices everything for the very Saiyan desire of becoming the best, and that's all that matters to him. And this is where Goku gets major props here, because he, as another Saiyan who has lived on Earth and has Earthling loved ones, sees right through Vegeta, and knows that no matter how hard he tries, he can't eject his love for his family. And he embraces his son for the first time in the way any Earthling father would. And from that point, Vegeta does get significantly better and more responsible, and I think a lot of people point to this clip to prove how much better of a father Vegeta is, whereas it's not fair to say that, but it does show how much Vegeta has grown in comparison to how much Goku hasn't.
Did you not see my wife? She could give birth any day now. I can't go.
But what does that have to do with you? The baby comes out of her, right?
So is Vegeta a better father than Goku? If we're looking at just the end result. You could make an argument, but that is not the whole story. And if you were to ask me the question, I would say no, absolutely not. In the video I showed you, the YouTuber was saying, oh, Goku did this one thing and all of a sudden that's him, terrible parent, marked as a terrible father for all of eternity. The reason people keep bringing up the Cell arc is because it's indicative of Goku's parenting as a whole.
It's fine. Go on. What's stopping you? Your hidden power is the only way to... It's fine.
The good and the bad. And this is just something that has just popped into my head. And this is mostly a joke point, but bear with me on this. I don't really see Goku appearing in a lot of sexy anime male character lists. And I know Dragon Ball is mostly a male-dominated fan base, but there are a decent number of female Dragon Ball fans. Of course there are. It is the most famous anime and manga in the world. But when you talk to a lot of female Dragon Ball fans, Goku is not really considered particularly attractive. He seems to, as I said in the beginning, attract straight men. And there are a lot of reasons for that. And particularly because a lot of sexy anime male characters are the sparkly, sweet prince kind of boys. They seem to be the favorites in the anime community, which I don't really get it, but to each their own. But here's a little theory. I think at least part of that could be because Goku is not that great a prospect to be raising a child with. And that's, I think, a lot of the reason that Piccolo seems to be a lot more popular among the female Dragon Ball fans, because like I said, myself included, everybody loves Papa Piccolo. Seriously, guys. And I am going to give you some valuable information. Never underestimate how attractive paternal instincts make you to the opposite sex. I can't even see the Mandalorian's face and I want to have this man's babies. So yeah, maybe when you, as again, hopefully childless young men, say that Goku is a good father, maybe ask people who might have to consider the prospect of having a child with a man like that. And I want to talk briefly about Toriyama's opinion on this. Now, I'm a big proponent of death of the author. I do not believe that you have to take the author's word as gospel because, and I call this the Devin Grayson rule, authors, writers, creatives, they're human and they can be wrong about things. And they can be even contradictory when it comes to their own work. So yeah, I do not believe you have to take Toriyama's word as gospel here. But I think it is interesting to know what was in the head of a creative when they were writing something. And Toriyama says he doesn't even have a job. He has no interest in child rearing. And again, if you see enough evidence in the anime, and particularly I think there's more evidence in the manga, but if you see enough evidence that this is untrue, that this is contradictory, absolutely. But from my point of view, I really don't see enough compelling evidence contradicting this. Toriyama did literally write Goku as someone who has no interest in being a father. Does he love his family? Absolutely. Does he protect his family? Absolutely. When Chi-Chi nags and pushes him, does he do some of the mundane work? Sometimes. And as I said, there is a very, very good reason people keep coming back to the Cell arc because it is indicative of Goku's parenting, the good and the bad. Because while everyone else has the primary concern of the child, his concern is
Goku! Don't worry, Krillin. Gohan's going to win. Trust me, okay? He's fine.
Yikes. Serious yikes, okay? And again, You can give me but the world is in danger, the everything. Yes, that is a good point in terms of Goku doing the ultimate good thing for the good of the many and everything. But that doesn't mean that he gets to claim good parenthood, okay? You can sacrifice your child for the rest of the world, and again, needs of the many, etc., etc. That could be the right thing to do, but you do not then get to claim Father of the Year, okay? It doesn't work like that, okay? You don't. There are consequences. You can be the good guy in some ways and the bad guy in others, okay? And I just want to quickly expand on this, the fate of the world excuse, using an example from the show Andor. By the way, brilliant show. I'm going to have to talk about that sometime. Just add it to the ever-expanding list. But I want to focus on the character of Mon Mothma, who is financing the rebellion to fight the tyrannical empire, but she can't do it from her own coffers, so she sets her daughter up for an arranged marriage to get further financial backing for the rebellion, despite knowing how unhappy an arrangement like that made her. And, much like Goku does, she doesn't even consult her daughter on that. She's hiding it from her family. And yes, Mon Mothma is a good person. She is a hero. She is sacrificing so much for the greater good of the galaxy. But that goodness does not transfer to good parenthood. She does not get to claim Mother of the Year for this, despite the fact that she is ultimately doing the right thing. The galaxy is more important than her daughter. Goku, I feel similarly about. But it's even worse for Goku because at least Mon Mothma knows what she's doing and feels very guilty about it, whereas Goku doesn't take Gohan into consideration at all. Goku's primary concern here is Gohan getting stronger and defeating Cell, not the child himself. That is why Piccolo is so loved, because he's looking at this and he can't bear it.
I'd rather die than wait.
And again, I don't want to be disingenuous here. The Cell arc does show a lot of good things about Goku's parenting. He's not stubborn, he's not prideful, he is willing to admit when he's wrong when he sees it. And yes, he does believe in his son. He does love his son. He is willing to sacrifice his life for his son, yes. But when we're looking at the parenting criteria, does this ultimately make him a good father? As I said, I think the problem is that Vegeta and Piccolo seem to develop as characters. That is why people cut them a lot of slack. We have short memories. We like characters who develop. We tend to see characters as they are now more than who they were, especially if we like them. In Dragon Ball Z, especially in the original Dragon Ball, Goku does grow and change. In Dragon Ball Z, it's more subtle, but it's definitely there, at least as a character, if not a father, until right at the very end. And this lesson is important for Goku. This is something he has learned as a parent and accepted, that he shouldn't have put that burden on his kid.
I tried, Grandma. I couldn't do it.
It's not your fault. I never should have put so much on your shoulders.
And again, point in Goku's favor. I am in total agreement that the whole Goku is a terrible, horrible, awful father has been wildly taken out of context and has been really unfair and quite disingenuous and sometimes outright false. But audiences are a lot more forgiving, especially of fictional characters, if they can see them becoming better. It's those who are unwilling or unable to change that incur the most ire. Unless, of course, they're a villain. Yes, Goku saves Gohan. Yes, Goku trains Gohan. Yes, Goku loves Gohan. But that does not make a good parent. Good parenting does. And I think this is simply down to Toriyama just writing Goku as someone who has no interest in child rearing. Someone who loves his family dearly but has no interest in the fundamentals of family life and the necessary mundane work it entails.
Because the thing about repairing, maintaining, and cleaning is, it's not an adventure. There's no way to do it so wrong you might die. It's just work. And the bottom line is, some people are okay going to work, and some people would rather die.
So in conclusion, is Goku a bad father? By most metrics, including my own, yes, I believe he is. But have his deeds as a father and also as a character been exaggerated, misrepresented, and taken out of context? Also true. And asking if Goku is a good father is kind of like asking if Batman is a good father. The answer is inevitably going to be no, but it's complicated. Goku is not a villain. He is not a bad person. He's just not a good father.